Right, so let's get to American Born Chinese, episode 8, aka the season finale, and apparently not the series finale, unlike what I thought at the beginning of this show. And this episode in particular, was absolutely bonkers. So, um, Jin is having a very weird dream, and he's the repairman on the Beyond Repair set. There is Freddy, there is his parents, and then there is Quinen. And a brief appearance as well from Anuj. And everything that happens in his dream, obviously not in the same situation, but everything that happens basically comes true during the day. Now, so he goes to class, and he's trying to get a hold of Wei Shen because he has no idea what's going on with Wei Shen. He obviously doesn't know about him fighting Numu Wang. So Wei Shen is distracted. Did I say Wei Shen? Jin is distracted. And even Amelia, is turning around, smiling, trying, hoping to chat with Jin like she always does. And he's just, well, I wouldn't say he's cold with her, but he's obviously distracted. And she notices it. So I feel bad, she's smiling, she's happy to see him, and, she just gets a curt hi, and he goes back to staring at his phone. And, so he also gets yelled at by the soccer team because he was supposed to wear his jersey like everybody else, but he ghosted them. Because, again, he's concentrating on Wei Shen and what's going on with his dream and with the fourth scroll. So, and let's face it, I don't know why he's under the impression that Wei Shen is even on Earth at this point. Because when he left, Quinen said that they were going home. And he knows home is heaven, unless he still doesn't completely believe that line. So, because otherwise, why would he think he could answer his texts? But anyway. So, he talks to Anuj, who's preparing the cosplay club for their performance before the big soccer game, which is supposed to have epic consequences. And he tells him about his dream, and Anuj is like, I wear this shirt a lot. With mismatching socks? Oh. Well then. So obviously this dream is really realistic, so it's extremely strange, and he wants to find Wei Shen. And he talks to Anuj about it, and so the two of them go to see Wei Shen. Now, why Jin couldn't go by himself, I do not know, but it turns out for the best, because Anuj, of course, knows his comics. I don't know if it's specifically manga, because they also mention Fantastic Four, so it's just comics in general. So they first get a fright from Wei Shen, because Wei Shen is no longer masking his appearance. And while this is happening, Jin's parents decide to look for the pendant. So they go to the restaurant that Ji Gong took them to find the pendant. And Larry is none too helpful. And we find out for the first time that he's the manager. That Ji Gong is just a helper. He's a busboy. And so Jin's father decides to investigate, which I don't know why he would investigate the back, because I guess he was looking for Zhigong. Is the only thing I can think of, because otherwise, why? And Larry, of course, tells them off because of, he's trying to defend his wife and don't be disrespectful to her. And he's like, yeah, that didn't stop you when you were drunk. Which, he was drunk. Now, does that, is that a good enough excuse? No, because that's just basically who you are when you have no inhibitions. However, yeah, okay, there's a difference between husband and wife disrespecting each other, or family in general disrespecting each other, and outsiders doing it. I mean, it just hits different. It's that sort of thing like with siblings where, you could fight like cats and dogs, but that you will make a united front if somebody outside attacks one of you, because that's just the way it is. So, they start snooping around, and they hear a noise, and they find Sun Wukong. Now, he is very careful as to what he says. He's very generic in what he says to them as to who he is, what he's doing here, and about his son. So generic that Jin's mother concocts this crazy story as to who he is, which I find it hilarious that one of the things is he's probably divorced. There's all this other stuff, plus he must be divorced. Wait, what? Okay. That just, okay. Does this qualify as allosexuals being just weird? I don't know. But anyway, so they leave after they give him something to drink. She gives him some of that herbal remedy that she normally gives out, but Wei Shen gave to Jin as a birthday present. So, and it just heals him up spectacularly, which I figured it would, but, because he seemed intrigued by it. And, so they leave, and of course everybody's going to the soccer game. So Wei Shen, Anuj, and Jin are looking through comics, and because Wei Shen finds out that a lot of the plot of what Numu Wong was doing to Sun Wukong comes out of manga. So it's either that this is some sort of otherworldly, the writer was divinely inspired, or just proof that there are no new ideas. But, so they're going through the comics to try to figure out, what to expect. And so they're quizzing Wei Shen about this, about that, about the other thing. And Wei Shen is explaining, yay or nay for all of them. And it turns out that Numu Wong does have some shape-shifting ability, which I guess means it's not as good as him and his father. So, so they decide that they have to find him at the soccer game, and that it's the autumnal equinox. So this is the best, that's when the earth and heaven are the closest. So, and a portal will open. So this is the best time to strike. So they figure out, so they go to the soccer game, and Jin is totally distracted, looking around, trying to figure out who Numu Wong is, because they know that he could be anyone. And we see their biology professor lying on the floor, their biology teacher lying on the floor. And so it's pretty obvious that he took over his, he shapeshifted into their biology teacher. So, of course, he's not going to look weird or anything because, well, obviously Wei Shen underestimated his ability to shapeshift. He's shapeshifting better since Wei Shen last saw him. Or just Wei Shen doesn't know what he's talking about. That's always a possibility, too. So they're looking around, and Amelia finds Jin. And she basically says that I want us to start dating. And Jin is kind of out of it because he's like, wait, what are you saying? And at the same time, his head is also with trying to help Wei Shen, who informed Anuj that, oh, by the way, this is going to destroy Earth too. And Anuj is like, great, thanks for telling me. Really would have liked to have known that before this, but if this is going to be mutually assured destruction, would it really matter if he knew? I mean, the cost is high regardless, So Anuj comes up with, so thanks to what Amelia said, Jin figures out how to get Numu Wong out of hiding, and that's to draw him out. So Anuj, who's the head of the cosplay club, which I didn't think was a thing, but okay, he decided that there's going to be a change in plans to the cosplayers, which I felt bad for the cosplayers. I mean, I'm sure they worked really hard on this, on whatever they were going to perform, and Anuj is like, yeah, it's just gonna be me and Jin. Just don't worry about it. So Jin is, of course, the Bull Demon, and Anuj is Quinen because he's wearing that dress, which looks surprisingly good on him. It really does, even if it's just over his usual clothes. It still looked good on him. It's a good look for him. So, they start the play, and it devolves into Jin out and out insulting Numu Wong. And finally Numu Wong shows himself, and him and Wei Shen start fighting. And everybody seems to think that this is part of the cosplay, and nobody seems to question what's going on, except for possibly the coach. Now, granted, he was more interested in, okay, let's get on with the game, but he's also questioning what's happening on the field and how this is just a bunch of cosplayers. And, so he has an inkling of doubt as to what's going on. So I wonder if there is a second season, if he doesn't play a more substantial role. But anyway, so Wei Shen and Numu Wong are fighting, and then he puts the iron staff into the ground, and nothing, no amount of throwing heavy things at it is going to break through. So Jin is then harking back to his dream and what his mother was saying. And at this point, it dawned on me. He is the fourth scroll. And so he runs and leaps over the iron staff, breaking the connection between the iron staff and heaven. And Jin is momentarily unconscious. And for a moment there, I did wonder if they were going to kill him off, that this was going to be some sort of sacrifice on his part. I'm glad it wasn't, but for a moment I wondered that. So Wei Shen is, checking to make sure that Jin is okay. And that's long enough for Numu Wong to get the heads up on Wei Shen, only to be stopped by his father, Sun Wukong, which Wei Shen is thrilled that he's alive because he thought he was dead, because huge explosion. And Jin's parents are there, and that's his big motivation for doing this. It's not just that, he's protecting Wei Shen's home, but he sees this as protecting his parents. And I wonder if his parents noticed that this is the same man that they helped in Zhigong's little area. So, yeah, I really wonder if they recognized him from that. And I wonder how much they know their Chinese mythology. Because, I don't see it as any different as, my knowing Christian myths, even though I'm not Christian. And yes, it is a myth. The only difference between religion and myths is whether anybody adheres to it, whether anybody believes it. That is literally the only difference. But anyway, so I wonder if A, they recognized Sun Wukong, and B, because they were talking about the bull demon and all that's happening with him, and like I said, Jin just descended into just out and out insulting him. I wonder if they were like, wait a minute, I know these characters, so that they might have some idea of what's happening. Only in the fact that, wait a minute, what's going on? Why are Jin and Anuj talking about Chinese myths? So, finally, Wei Shen is standing. Sun Wukong and Numu Wong are, they're all standing around, and Wei Shen declares, "You are the fourth scroll," to Jin. And Jin's like, "I'm the fourth scroll," and he yells at Anuj that he's the fourth scroll. And then for some reason, I guess because he was excited, he yells to the audience like any of them would have any clue. And again, I wonder if Jin's parents were like, "Wait a minute, what?" That they might have some enough knowledge of the myths that they would be like, "Wait a minute, what?" Whereas the rest of them everybody else is just totally confused. They're cheering because this is a happy moment, but they have no idea what's going on. But I wonder if Jin's parents had an inkling. Only in the sense that they understood what's going on, even though they might not have believed any of this. But, so we don't see the soccer game, but based on the fact that Anuj drove Jin home, and he's like, "I can't believe you kissed Amelia." Well, technically she kissed him, but anyway. So based on the fact that he took him home instead of his parents, because obviously they would have stayed for the game, I'm going to say that they won and there was a big celebration, so of course he came home later. So, is the only thing I can think of. Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just, wait for him to change and come home? So he comes home. Wei Shen scares the absolute crap out of him, to say goodbye and to thank him for saving his home. Because Jin was, giving Wei Shen the credit that he stopped the uprising. I was like, no, you did. Which is true. It was more Jin because he was the one who severed the connection between Heaven and the Iron Staff. But it was a team effort. So Wei Shen says that, we might see each other again, and then he leaves. So he goes inside, and there's nobody around. And I'm sorry, maybe because there's nobody in the house, but the house looked different. So he's walking around trying to, get a hold of somebody. It's like, is anybody here? And then the lights flicker, and you see a woman sitting on the couch, which it turns out is Princess Ironfan. And she's like, I always wondered what you were, and now I know. And if you want to see your parents again, you're coming with me. And he's like, yeah, my Chinese sucks. Could you try that again? And so that's the cliffhanger. So I hope there's a season 2 now. Which, like I said, I really didn't think there was going to be a season 2. I thought this was going to be a limited series. A limited episodes. But, yeah. Looks like they're at least wanting to do a season 2. So, all I can assume is that season 2 is going to take place in Heaven. Most, if not the whole season. And then it's a question of which mortals are going to be helping get Jin back. Because all I can assume is either one of two things are going to happen. Either Jin and his parents are going to be the prisoners of Princess Ironfan, or she is going to release his parents because she has him now. So that's always a possibility. I'm going to go with option 1. But, because nothing says group therapy like being stuck in a prison together. But anyway. So, I'm wondering which mortals are going to help out. I'm assuming it's going to be Anuj, because Anuj at least has some understanding of what's happening, and he sure as hell knew, what happened at the final battle, because he's the only one who knew that was a real battle and not cosplay. Possibly they would get Amelia because, she just got a boyfriend and he's missing now. So she might have a vested interest in getting him back. I don't know about the soccer bros. It's possible, or at the very least Travis. But, so I'm a little unsure about the soccer bros. Anuj seems to think he and Susie are dating, which Susie vehemently denies. So, possibly she might be able to be of help. Yeah, I hope there's a season 2, because I'm really curious how they're going to top this episode specifically. Not just the season, but specifically this episode, because it was so bonkers. I can only imagine if they're in the heavenly realm for the next season, how absolutely bonkers it could be next season. Let me see if I'm missing anything. I don't believe I am. I think I pretty much covered everything. So with that, I will see you in the next video.